Joined now by one of the newest Outkick employees, Chad Withrow. His new show will debut on March the 15th as a part of the Outkick Over the Top network. Excited for that. We're also going to do a big event in Nashville on March 19th for the opening Friday of the NCAA tournament. You can follow him on Twitter at the Chad Withrow. Withrow, I mean, we've been talking a lot about it because I feel like the entire eastern part of the country is under a deep freeze. For people out there who don't really familiarize themselves with the South in winter, Texas obviously completely overtaken. Memphis, Nashville under siege by weather as we speak right now. I tried to tell my wife, and I started off the show talking a little bit about the South in snow. My wife is from Michigan. And so when we were in law school, I told her, I said, look, if it starts to snow, do not get on the road and attempt to drive anywhere. And she just kind of laughed it off as, oh, there's nothing to worry about. But one of the things is we don't just get snow ever. It also is ice. And I don't know if you saw the video that I posted of an area outside of Nashville where a guy's backing outside of his, I'm assuming it was a guy, could have been a girl too, we can't really see the driver, backing outside of his driveway, goes out into the road and just slides completely sideways down the road, the black ice. I was out a little bit on Sunday. I haven't been out at all today yet. And there was black ice everywhere, and it's only getting worse and worse as the day is continuing. But hopefully, thankfully, it's a holiday, so hopefully a lot of people are not going to have to be out. But how would you convey it? Because there's a lot of people listening to us right now who are all over, Michigan, Wisconsin, New York, the Dakotas, places where snow is regular. This ice thing is pretty scary.
Well, let's start, Clay, by debunking a couple of myths and explaining things to people about the South and the North when it comes to this. In the North, it's not a big deal because they're prepared constantly for this type of weather.
Right.
They have the infrastructure in place. They have salt trucks. They're constantly prepared to clear roads and have roads ready to go. The South is at a disadvantage because it doesn't normally get like this. So they're usually ill-prepared because they don't have the resources to clear the road. So it is objectively a much bigger deal when there's ice and snow in the South for that reason. And this is difficult for people from the North to understand.
Well, also because we're right on the line, too, of ice and sleet and snow. Like, it never is usually cold enough where you're like, oh, it's just going to be snow. It's always like right there, are we going to have a cold rain, or is it going to be snow, or is it going to be something in between?
Well, and again, my wife's from Nebraska, and they can clear a road quickly. All the state highways are immediately cleared whenever there's snow up there all the time, snow and ice all the time, but they clear it out so quickly that it's not as big of a deal because they're prepared for those types of things because they budget in their state for these trucks and these types of things. It's not as big of a budgetary need in the state of Tennessee to have that done. So when that happens, it is worse. Here's the other thing that drives me crazy is when people from the North act like they enjoy driving on ice. No one likes driving on ice. There's not any good sense of not having control of your car. The only way to drive on ice is to drive slow and be very careful and give yourself enough time to stop. But when you put on the brakes on ice, you're at the mercy of the ice.
Yes.
I always hear this from people that come from you people down in the South, you just don't understand how to drive on ice, or you don't know how to drive on ice, or you don't appreciate driving on ice. I don't know a single person that actually enjoys driving on ice.
Or is really good at it.
It's a difficult thing to do. Right.
Or is really good at it. Like I have been on ice before where 2 different times where I had issues. Once I was in a car that made a complete circle on the ice, right? In the middle of the road, there was nobody else there. My car started to spin. It went all the way around, right? Like literally made a circle. And then I just kept on driving, like with zero issues. It would be amazing to watch on film because if somebody back in the day, if they had all those Nest cameras and everything else that are on houses now where you can see exactly what happens, that would be pretty unbelievable to see. But the other time was, it was just a few years ago scenario here, and I slid right into a tree. Now, I wasn't going very fast, and the tree wasn't very big, so it wasn't like it was a massive issue. But both times, I had zero control over being able to do anything. It wasn't snow. It was 100% ice.
Yeah, so I did what you're talking about, the complete 360.
Yeah.
I did that on a rainy road one time on Briley Parkway in Nashville.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up doing a one whole spin and then going back around and facing the other way when I came to a stop. And there were cars just stopped watching me. So I was facing the cars coming into traffic.
That's pretty scary. That's also a big road.
Around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just calmly turned around and kept going.
As if nothing
didn't hit
happened.
The median or anything, and I was like, all right, I guess I'm fine, and kept going. The other time on ice, in high school, we would have basketball practice even if it was snow and ice and there was no school. So I woke up late one morning and was late to a high school basketball practice and drove my 1989 Jeep Cherokee way faster than I should have at 17 years old. And there was a hill above our school, and I actually slid. The side of my car hit one gate that was open. The other side hit the other one. I went completely down a hill, through a grassy median, and ending right in a parking spot in between two cars.
Was there any damage to the car?
Without the car, I dinged my side of my car up pretty good.
Did anybody see
hitting the gate
it?
on one side. Nobody saw it. I was late.
Yeah.
So I finally came to a stop right in between two cars. Got out, went inside, started practicing, told my buddies about it. But no one saw it. But I'm with you, Clay. If these things could have been captured on some camera back in the day, it would be entertaining to watch.
So now that the NFL is over, we've been talking about this a little bit, we're basically in the middle of the quarterback musical chair season. And let me start here. Did you do anything? So it's like everybody's out there looking to give a Valentine, right, to the right quarterback to find out whether or not it's the right choice. I'm obviously tying into Valentine's Day. I'm going to ask you about Valentine's Day here in a minute. But of the available quarterbacks that are out there, who do you think is actually capable of being good that isn't right now good? So let's take a step back. I think you can make an argument that Dak, that Russell Wilson, that Deshaun Watson are all different level proven quarterbacks. And I actually think they're going to end up with the teams that they're with already. But of the Carson Wentz, the Jacoby Brissetts, the Cam Newtons, the Marcus Mariotas, the Jameis Winstons of the world, maybe even Teddy Bridgewater, who out there is a possible reclamation project that could, if they were in the right situation, have a Ryan Tannehill-like impact? That is, early on, it looked like they might have some success. Things didn't work out. Their team basically moved on from them, decided they weren't the guy. And then Tannehill has obviously been an incredible success story relative to expectations with the Tennessee Titans. Is there anybody out there that to you looks like they could be that Valentine's Day special, low cost, high return?
I think that there's two that immediately pop to mind, and it's almost a deadlock for me in terms of possible potential if they get in the right system with the right franchise. Teddy Bridgewater, Carson Wentz. I could see both of those guys being a good reclamation project and going to the right place. Now, let's say that Carson Wentz ends up in Indianapolis with the Colts, and he's back with Frank Reich as his coach. I think there's potential there that you could see. I don't know to the level of Tannehill because, quite frankly, I don't think he's as talented as Ryan Tannehill. But could he save his career and turn things around and be really good in Indianapolis? I think he could. I think the same goes for Teddy Bridgewater, who's he's suffered some horrific injuries in his career, but I think he's a guy that's got the potential, if healthy, if in the right system, could be a decent quarterback. The other names in that list, Cam Newton, Jameis Winston, some of these other guys, I feel like we've seen enough now with those guys to know exactly what they are. And the fact that Jameis Winston wasn't really getting even a good shot to get on the field with Taysom Hill at quarterback for Drew Brees for the Saints is the sign that he may be what we thought he was all along.
What's interesting about that list I just hit you with, these are all, if you leave out Jacoby Brissett, these are all former first-round quarterbacks, I believe I'm correct in. I didn't even include Dwayne Haskins. But Dwayne Haskins, Cam Newton, Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston, Carson Wentz, Teddy Bridgewater, all of those guys would be available to different contending teams out there. All of them former first-round picks, all of whom on some level were starting in the last couple of years and just haven't panned out, which is why I think the Ryan Tannehill analogy is really interesting for all of them, because every single one of those guys right now, their agents and their entire storyline has to be predicated on, hey, we can be the next Ryan Tannehill, a reclamation project that works well.
No, I think so. Yeah, I mean that's the list. Who you're saying? I mean, Marcus Mariota. I think I could give some consideration to landing in the right spot and having a good year or two. But it's tough to say any of those guys are going to be the next Ryan Tannehill, considering what he's done with the Titans. But I do like the possibilities of Carson Wentz and Frank Reich ending up together in Indianapolis.
Do you agree with me that Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson are highly unlikely to be on a different team? In other words, do you buy into the Texans, the Cowboys, or the Seahawks doing anything with any of those three guys?
Definitely not with Russell Wilson in Seattle. Highly doubtful with the Cowboys. I think more likely with the Texans. Considering they released J.J. Watt. I know it's totally different with Russell Wilson, but it seems like they're at least open to the possibilities of completely blowing things up and starting over. So if they got the right haul for Deshaun Watson, then I think maybe that they would make a move there. I don't know why you would necessarily if you're the Texans, unless you think the guy's just going to dog it and he's never going to want to be a part of your team. You try to appease him and make him happy and see if he likes the new coach and likes whatever the new system is there in Houston. But no, I think you're right, Clay. I would put the odds at highly unlikely any of those guys end up on a different team next year.
Where would you tell J.J. Watt to go? Like, let's presume that the dollars are probably not going to be. I would bet at this point that J.J. Watt has made not to say that money doesn't matter at all, but I don't think J.J. Watt is looking at a massive payday here. And he's made a lot of money over the last decade. At this point, I think his primary goal is probably winning a championship. Where would you tell J.J. Watt to go if you were advising him now that he's an unrestricted free agent?
If it was just to win a championship, I'd tell him to go to Kansas City. If that were the only rationale for what he was going to do. Personally, it makes a lot of sense to go to Green Bay or Pittsburgh. He can go to Pittsburgh and play with his brothers and be on a good team, but not a team that I would put really in Super Bowl consideration, especially given Ben Roethlisberger's age at this point and what his career looks like and what that team looks like. Green Bay is right there competing for a championship. That would make a lot of sense to go back home. He's from Wisconsin. I think the Titans make sense in terms of need, and the Titans should be, based on the position those other teams are in the division, they should be the team to beat in the AFC South, so that gives you a good chance. You're going to host playoff games and have a chance to go deep in the playoffs. But if we're looking at it, Clay, just as where can he go to win a championship, I'm going Kansas City at the top of the list, and then probably Green Bay, who also has a personal tie-in for J.J. Watt.
Yeah, there's no doubt that personal tie-in is pretty intriguing. We're talking to Chad Withrow at the Chad Withrow. You can find him on Twitter. What did you do for Valentine's Day? Anything at all? And do you think there is more pressure on a married man with young children or a single man out there that is early in the days of his relationship?
Way more pressure on the single guy early in the relationship. I get let off the hook because my wife does not care at all about these holidays, these sort of artificial hallmark holidays like Valentine's Day. Just really does not care. But now I have two daughters, and it does matter to them. So what did I do on Valentine's Day? I went and drove on ice in Nashville and got I love you balloons. I ordered a heart-shaped pizza, played kids' Valentine music over dinner. Got multiple hugs and multiple I love yous from my 5-year-old. Bought some Valentine-themed cookies. These are my Valentine's Day now, Clay. This is way more important for my 5-month-old and 18-month-old and not as important for my wife, who does not care at all about Valentine's Day. So the pressure definitely lies with the younger single person, single guy, especially new in a relationship, especially if it's their first Valentine's Day together, you got to go big. You got to get it right. You got to get the right reservation. You got to get creative. I think for us, married guys out there, probably not as big of a deal.
How bad do you think there were errors out there given the COVID restaurant restrictions? How many guys were just on Saturday and Sunday just in an absolute disaster? I mean, I know there's some guys listening to us right now who waited until the last minute. They didn't think about the fact that restaurants were only going to have X amount of capacity, that they were doubled down, weather conditions, lots of places, which probably made it that much worse. What do you think? How much do you think was a disaster this weekend?
I think there were a lot of busts out there.
Yeah.
I think there were a lot of guys just walking around in shame when whatever their respective city is, trying to make good on showing up at a restaurant, not having a reservation, not understanding that it was limited capacity, and being in a tough spot. I would advise all of these guys on Valentine's, the go-to is to learn to make a meal, learn to cook something, and cook that meal for that special someone, or just get some sort of order delivery and then make the presentation nice.
Yeah.
That way you avoid the possibility of reservations and restaurants being overbooked and everything else, and you make it special that way. And it shows that you can put a little elbow grease into it and get some work done and make it nice and special.